here and act like I got things.
Hello, we are live and we are discussing today just where might Loch Ness, Bigfoot, aliens, fairies, who am I forgetting? There's so many creatures.
Well, there are so many, it's ridiculous. I didn't realize how many there were until I started doing research for my YouTube page and this other book I'm working on. I started reading through all these things. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's real, like, how?
Right?
But I have my theory, which we will get to later. We're going to talk a little bit about other things, and then I'll tell you how I think there are so many creatures. But we can talk about
Now
other
I know,
things
Richie,
first.
you've had a run-in. Hey, Gina.
Hi.
Good
Had
morning.
a run-in with Bigfoot, but Emily, have you had a run-in with any?
So I grew up in a very rural area. So there definitely was a certain feeling at night, definitely have seen eyes in the woods, but other than that, I've been lucky enough to not have a run-in. In the sense, if I'm not prepared for it, I probably wouldn't run as headfirst into that as I would the ghost, right?
Yeah. It's definitely a different feel.
Shadow people, that's another one. And I've only ran into those in one house that is owned by a family member. And was not the greatest feeling because there was almost and each time that happened, there was an electrical thunderstorm going on. So it just felt weird anyway in the air. And then to run into those and I'm like, this is not a fun afternoon. Why are you here? Go do something else, please.
Yeah.
But then you could go months, years and not see them. So it's where are they coming from? How do they choose where they're going to be? And Emily, you were talking in the store that you've had a theory.
Yes, I have a theory that a couple other people have sort of mentioned. I really think because there are so many cities that have activity, the entire city has all this activity, and it'll be UFO sightings, cryptid sightings paired with actual spiritual hauntings. So, that leads me to believe that energetically in certain places, there tends to be more activity. I think it's because there is kind of a overlap between dimensions. So I don't think that Bigfoot's always living in the woods, right? I think that it tends to be places that are pretty untouched by humans, really rural areas, especially like Appalachia, by ley lines, by mesas and stuff in Utah. So I think maybe places like that just lend to being able to kind of tap into that other dimension. And that's why we see all of these aliens and, cryptids and all of that in the same area. So
Hi,
good morning.
Happy. Yes.
Good morning.
Where we're kind of going over cryptids. Where do they come from? Why do we see them and then we don't? And there seems to be a general belief that they're from other dimensions and they pop in and out, or planes of existence, maybe. Now, Richie, you've already kind of hinted that you had a theory.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different theories, as especially for Bigfoot. Like Emily said, they don't always just live in the woods, and that's 100% true because you have your different versions of it, with different names seen in different places. Like the Ohio grassman lives in the grassy plains of Ohio, where the ones from West Virginia lives in the hills and the mountains ranges, or the Yeti lives in the Himalayan mountains. All different things. Just like humans live in different places, they live in different places too. But my theory, and some people think I'm crazy for it, maybe I am, but I think that A lot of creatures can be summed up with one word, and I hate saying the word, but I'm going to. Skinwalker.
Mm.
I think that that has a lot to do with the creatures. There have been theories that some Bigfoot can shapeshift. Werewolves, wendigos, all of them can do these crazy things. So, why is it so far fetched to think that maybe they're not even always in that form? Maybe they're in a human form sometimes. I don't know. That kind of sounds a little out there, outlandish, but I mean, it's a theory and it's not the craziest one that's out there.
It's funny because you're saying how crazy it is, and I'm over here like nodding my head, like, yeah.
Because you're in on that crazy. You're for
it. But it does make sense, though, with the shape-shifting, like you said, it very well could be the same type of creature that just has the ability to portray itself in different ways, which is super interesting to think about.
Yeah, and
so yeah.
For me, especially like, and the reason I hate saying that word is because I know that like Native American elders absolutely refuse to speak on that creature.
Right.
And when it comes to something that the elders are afraid to talk about, we probably shouldn't talk about it because there's a pretty good reason that they don't want to do it. But my speciality, where most of my knowledge in cryptids comes with Bigfoot, because after I had my run in, obviously I dived right in, like I want to know.
Right.
I think there's, for lack of a better term, I'm going to use the word breed. Just like you have different breeds of dog, I think there's different breeds of like Bigfoot. There's going to be some that are just natural misidentified creatures. I firmly believe that there's no such thing as a truly extinct creature. Some of the Bigfoot sightings very well could be Gigantopithecus, just simply misidentified. I do believe that there are a lot of Native American tribes that believe that they are dimension walkers. That is very much, I think, some of them are. I cannot remember the tribe, but I should have wrote it down when I was listening to it. Their history, their stories passed down through the generations, was an actual war with Bigfoot, and they were able to come to a treaty with them where there was a wall built. If humans go on your side of the wall, do what you want with them. If Bigfoot comes on our side of the wall, we do what we want. No repercussions for that. Well, that takes intelligence to be able to do that. So some of them are like that. Then there's going to be the ones that are, extraterrestrial experimentations, because a lot of times when you get this huge rash of Bigfoot sightings, they're accompanied by a lot of UFO sightings too. So it's like, I think that almost every theory has some, there's something to every theory, and maybe all of them are true, and we're just seeing different kinds. Different. Will you go away and do something?
She's doing something. She's trying to get in on the conversation.
Yeah.
She's in my backpack, and I'm like, there's nothing in there for you. But yeah, so I think there are different kinds. Like there's going to be your more animalistic ones that are just misidentified creatures, your smarter ones. Maybe some of them are even human experimentations gone wrong, which wouldn't surprise me, because we don't know how not to be nosy.
I agree with the dog.
And then, like I said, the dimension walkers, physical powers, and all of that. So,
No new friends coming in, discussing cryptids and where do they come from? Are they shapeshifters? Are they dimension walkers, plane walkers? A little bit of both. Because it is very interesting that different places all around the globe will have very similar cryptid, right?
Exactly.
One like Bigfoot, we keep referring back because I think so many people are used to him, especially when he was using beef jerky commercials, right?
He's just
He was
there's
even
so much.
wasn't he in one of the car insurance commercials at one point with Flo with Progressive? Like, didn't they use him there too?
That would not surprise me.
Yes.
No. I know what you're thinking of. It was so easy a caveman can do it. I can't.
Well, there were the
Yeah, I can't remember which one that was.
but it was the beef jerky commercial that we found out that Bigfoot's name is Daryl. But he lives in the woods in the US, but across the big pond, he's up in the mountains and more white instead of brown. But it's funny because when I go into a haunted place, I'm not really scared. I'm almost kind of like, prove it and show it to me. Whereas Bigfoot, and I'm sitting here going, during the day, I probably wouldn't be afraid. At night where you're in the dark and you can't just go running if you need to, that's a whole different level of experience of
it is
not quite fun. But I have not had the chance to run into a Bigfoot or anything, like just shadow people, the annoying fairies in the house that I didn't see. They were just causing problems, and then dead people in the house.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a different feeling when you see a cryptid like Bigfoot. Like, when I had my encounter with him, I had been volunteering at the reformatory for 3 years. I've seen a lot. I've been there day and night. I have seen a lot. Paranormal ghosts, they don't scare me one bit, like you said. But when I first looked in that creature's eyes, my blood ran cold, and I was like, but I was trained, because of the job I had, like, we're trained not to freak out until after the situation's handled. So, like, every part of me was fighting. I'm like, if just walk, don't run, but walk as fast as you can and get the hell out of here. So I got into a building as quick as I could, and I didn't go back in the courtyard for 3 months, I think. I didn't walk across that courtyard again. I made sure everywhere I went, I stayed in a building to get there because I didn't want to see it again until I did.
So Sean over on Twitch, he's like, I listened to a pod of a comedian that dated a shapeshifter. She was on the podcast and talked about her experiences and background. That would be interesting. What was that? And then I have to ask, is it shapeshifter like the cryptid, or is it the shapeshifting in shamanism? Because that term gets used in both, but they're different. Both are very interesting, at least to me. I don't know about you guys, but it could be interesting. Might be something worth going and listening to. Crystal Cat's like, I dream of going different places all the time and meeting dead people. Yeah. And fairies are always misplacing my keys. Now, Emily, do you work with the fairies much? Like, can you help him? Like, how to have his keys quit going missing?
The one thing that I've always been told, this is like an old folk magic thing, is if you feel like the fae are hiding your stuff, you put a pin in your couch. I couldn't tell you why that's supposed to work. It's one of those things that it's just passed down. So maybe give that a whirl. I, for the most part, avoid them because there's a certain etiquette involved that with my ADHD brain, like, I'm gonna forget. Like, I'm gonna end up saying thank you for something, gonna end up owing him a favor, telling him my name. There's just a lot of like lore that goes behind it. So with the cryptid thing though, that I think is like so interesting. So I don't know if you've probably seen something like posted somewhere about this because it's kind of a popular topic, but that like our brains naturally recognize faces in things that like are not human and stuff, and that we're trained to do that, right? So that would be a genetic evolutionary thing that's passed down that at some point we had a reason to be afraid of things that look like people, but not quite, you know? And that's terrifying. Like, because you think like, you know, of course we're talking cryptids like Bigfoot and stuff like that, but we're kind of overlooking too, like vampires, like werewolves. Like it sounds crazy, but at the same time, like those are stories that they're everywhere, you know? What were they talking about? Like it's just kind of crazy. So yeah.
It's like every story has a bit of truth that started that story.
So
and granted, over the years, right, then you have the game of telephone where things get a little bit blown up and murky, but there was still somewhere that little bit of truth in there. So how and why? You know, it's funny. Sean's like, fairy doors work for me. Last night, Chris, I don't know if Chris is lurking in the back listening because she would be at work. She was saying how she has a horse farm and a bunch of animals, and she accidentally stepped in the fairy ring, and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "I'd be jumping in there, like, come get me." I'm tired of here. Come get me. She's like, "Well, you're only 40 minutes away. I'll show you what's at." I'm like, "I'll be there tomorrow."
Chill.
But there are so many, and it always made sense to me that they would be like plane walkers or dimensional in and out. Just because we can't do it doesn't mean that other beings can't do it and do it well.
And that also bears the point of, can we? You know what I mean? Is that something that we were able to do at a certain point? Would a medicine woman or a medicine man or a shaman, you know, like the spiritual leaders way back when in tribal times, where like, were they able to do those things? Because like, I kind of believe that like we used to use our sixth sense, right? This like psychic ability that we have, whatever you want to call it, primarily. And that was how we kind of survived, you know, it was just like gut instincts and just like intuitive, going off intuition. But like as kind of we developed, we don't need to use that sixth sense so much. But I do think maybe people used to be able to do that, you know. I think certain areas like we were talking about are definitely more prone to that than others. A lot of like, I don't know if you ever watched, it's a show called I don't know if it's Secrets of Blind Frog Ranch or Mysteries of Blind Frog Ranch, but basically they bought this like ranch in this homestead, like in Utah, I think it is. So it's right next to like Skinwalker Ranch, the really famous one, you know. But so their cave, it's literally connected through the same cave systems. A lot of the time, these places that have such intense energy were actually like Native American, either spiritual places, holy grounds, or just places that they like were at, which is everywhere in the United States. I mean, let's be real, but like those specific places that have like monuments, landmarks, stuff like that, tend to actually be the places that this like ultra dimensional stuff is happening, you know. They found like carvings and stuff from way back when, like, you know, I don't know exactly when, but like hieroglyphs and stuff, you know. So it's just kind of crazy to think about, like, did the Egyptians, like, you know, with the pyramids, all of that, like, did they used to be able to
the thing
encounter them?
You know, speaking back to the whole, like, there's always a little bit of truth in these stories. When you think about the Egyptians, like half human, half animal, and I forget what author I kind of dabbled a little bit into, and I was just like, you're a little far out there. Let me come back to you.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was saying that like it was alien experiments combining, you know, human and animal, a human and alien, and that's where these beings came from. And at first I was kind of like, I will entertain this, and then he went so far off from me that I'm like, we're gonna come back to that. For all I know, he could be spot on, and my brain just can't perceive it. You know, I always wanted to be a healthy skeptic, a skeptical believer. That one was just a little far out there for me. But you know, when you think about the Egyptians, and I think, and I could be wrong because I suck at history, but they're one of the most, their pantheons are pretty much predominant man and beast, whereas other pantheons, as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys listening, most other pantheons are just human or strictly just animal with like human consciousness. They're not walking around with Fabio's body and a goat head. So
yeah.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, and I think too, it's like, where were they getting those images from? You know what I'm saying? And even the story about like Osiris and Aset is the Egyptian name, but like Isis is what a lot of people know her as. But she had this like crazy magic, and she could even shapeshift into like a bird, her and her sister, I think. And she was in the pantheon. Horus and Ra are both shown as birds. Sekhmet and Bastet or Bast are cats. It's a lion. So it is kind of crazy. Like pretty much all of them have some other like animal,
traits to it. Yeah, Kathy's like, this conversation reminds me of the idea that this life could possibly be a simulation.
Yeah.
Video game,
and where the ancients are concerned, and this is something that's always intrigued me, is how, when you look at like carvings and stuff that they found in different nations around the world, how can they have pretty much the exact same images, but they didn't have contact with each other?
Right.
I mean, they're almost exactly identical, but these two cultures never had contact, so both cultures had to see the same thing, and it's like, there are some, and I cannot remember off the top of my head, I can't remember what his name was, but he was they either called him an angel or a god or somebody, and he was, I believe, was in Egypt, and he said that he was going to go somewhere else and teach the people, and it ended up being somewhere in South America. And so, all these years later, we find the exact same images, from Egypt to, South American cultures and stuff, and it's like in Central America, but they didn't have contact with each other, right? So how do they have the exact same images across the world? I mean,
right.
I just think the evidence is out there because most people just don't want to look at it and see it for what it is.
So Sean found the link. I'm going to put it up in chat here so everybody can see it. This is the YouTube link to it, but it is called Me and Asterisk and Paranormal You. So if you're interested in the podcast of the person dating a shapeshifter, there's the link for it. But it is called Me and Paranormal You. If for some reason the link won't work in chat. And I'm a podcast listener, though right now I'm on a true crime binge because why not? Actually, I have been for a while now. Let's see. Now, Karen, you're throwing me for a loop because I've not heard of this, but maybe Richie and Emily says, good morning. What do you think of the lost planet Maldek? Bigfoot shape-shifting Palladians. That seems like somebody combined a bunch of different things together.
That's the first I'm hearing of it, too.
Like, I've heard of that lost planet. I've heard of Palladians. I've heard of Bigfoot, and I've heard of shapeshifters. And this is all just one big cluster of all.
Yeah. I don't know. Honestly, that's not something I'm as familiar with. I always thought that like Pleiadians and like the blue avians and stuff like that were also like ultra dimensional, which is then a whole other thing, where people believe like star seeds. Like I don't know if some believe that like another dimension, or if it's like another planet, or you know what I'm saying? It's a whole thing. So I guess it really depends on the person. I do have like a healthy dose of disbelief with some things, but I also try and suspend disbelief for the most part too, where it's like I want to have an open mind.
Yeah, 100%.
I think part of it for me though is it's like there's so much within witchcraft and spirituality that like is pretty well known and studied and concrete, and it's like there's so much to know that like sometimes maybe I can't. It's like I don't even have anything left over to look into, like, you know what I mean? Start working with like ultra dimensional beings. It's like if I see ya, I see ya. But that's interesting.
There was an author, and now that I'm bringing up, I can't think of his. I could tell you exactly what he looked like, and he's from New Jersey. He has a book on Venus and how that the whole planet revolves around bees, honeybees, and he's like, this is their symbol, and I'm like, there are no bees on Venus. Like, it will not support that level. But his whole work revolves around like the beings on that planet are a different dimension. So they live on that planet, but they're in a different dimension than we are. So it's like this whole other reality. And, so I'm like, okay, interesting. Makes my head hurt, but
yeah,
interesting. Like, okay. And for all I know, maybe they are talking to him. I don't know. I do know a local person, and Emily, I think you've maybe know who I'm talking about. I don't have his permission to throw his name out there, so I won't yet. Who does a lot of starseed work, Palladian work, channeling, all of those fun little beings. And he has done workshops, and he's like, let's go outside and, try to summon a ship. And, so many people in the class, like the next couple of days would like either come in or call and be like, oh my God, it worked. And I'm like, they don't like me. They never come visit me because I want them to get me off this planet. And I'm like, why? I'm like, I don't have that ability, at least yet, to like do this communication to get them, to appear. So that's like a whole other branch of like who aligns with what, and how do you know what your, I guess, vibrational like leads into? What are you more likely to see? Maybe that's why
so true.
But where I got stuck with shadow people, like I've seen them.
Yeah,
I'm not the right frequency to see certain dimensions.
And somehow I'm just stuck seeing just dead people, it's just more humans. Great.
I see everything.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh well, I don't have those toys to play with, apparently.
That is like interesting though, what you said, where it's like vibrationally, like some people really do resonate more with like the starry seeds of the cosmic things, the different dimensions, the astral travel. But everybody's different,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't like communicate with, for lack of a better term at this moment, since I'm so tired, let's just call it, say, aliens. That's what they are. I can't actually communicate with them like I communicate with you guys, or like I'm starting to be able to commune with the dead. But I did learn how to summon like ships. I learned it from somebody who is quite famous, but I can't say their name, obviously, for the same reasons. But Melissa, I'm sure you've met the person I'm talking about at the reformatory.
Okay.
She is quite famous, but for a big reason. Shut up. But I learned how to do it. I'm sorry. I know. She wants all the attention. It's like, I understand. Like, you get me every single day. Let me have 30 minutes. But yeah. So I can do that part. I can't actually communicate with them once they're here or whatever, however that works. But I can get them to come so people can see them. And I've shocked people by getting that to happen. They're like, oh my God, how did you do that? And I'm like, listen.
Can you get them to come get me?
If I could get them to come get people, I would not be sitting here talking to you. I promise.
Like, get them to like come get me.
But if the day comes where if I can get them to come pick me up, we'll stop and pick you up on our way out of town.
I'm done. Like, I came, I saw, I am not impressed. Vacation over. Worst vacation ever.
Absolutely agree.
Right, Karen too. Karen, like we might need more than one ship. We might need a few to come get those of us that are like fine.
Yeah.
Though I think Emily, you might be like, let me get into the fairy realm. You might be more
Yeah, I'd rather do that. Definitely, if I was gonna go somewhere, it wouldn't be with any aliens. That's for sure.
I wouldn't
Go
mind
live with
going.
Mothman before I did that.
You're like, look, I got your stuffy.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're friends. Like,
Yeah, Sean, go with you in with the Fae.
okay, cool.
Listen, I'm just straight up okay with just anybody who will take me the hell out of here.
Yeah, right.
Aliens, Fae, I don't care. Somebody just come get me out of here because I'm done. I'm sick of it.
Put a fork in me.
I think I'm more it's not like a comfortable. It's like the aliens, I think just the whole and there could be some that we just don't know about, and I could be wrong in this. That they seem more loose, like, right, in their socialisms of what I've heard and read of people who have interacted. Whereas with the Fae, there are so many rules and so many pleasantries that you have to abide by. And I'm like, I'm going to go in there and F all of that up.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
no. Whereas,
Yeah.
and I'm like, they're smarter than me. They're going to be like, oh, look at that little human. Isn't she?
Yeah.
Like, just give her a pass. You know, with
Right.
they're like, off with your head. Like,
Yeah, seriously.
you tried to
Right.
shape with your right hand in our plane. It's the left hand or the right pinky toe. So
Yeah. That's the thing. If I go to the fairy realm, like, let's be real, we're not coming back. Like, I broke some rule. I ate some food that was there, and like, it's over.
Yeah. So I'm like, I want to experience a little bit before I extend my stay in one way or another, be it just inadvertently offending the whole race or just whatever it might be.
It's not. It wouldn't take me very long.
My mouth would get me in trouble. I'm sure it would. So much I don't say every day. But if thought bubbles appeared above my head, like, it would be a bad thing.
Oh, it's okay. That doesn't happen.
So yeah, back to Karen. Like, Karen, I have not heard of, and I thought it was Planet X. So maybe this is a whole different planet Meldeck. I just heard it was like Planet X. And I'm sure you guys have heard like that ginormous planet that has such a big orbit that it is what throws off some of our other, but it's so far away that we can't see it right now. But I don't know if they're the same thing. But it's always been interesting to me because as a kid, I loved astronomy, and was like, I'm going to be, astronomy person. And then math came into view and I'm like, well, guess I'm out.
Yeah, pass.
Me and math aren't friends.
Not at all.
Okay. It's like Sean's like, I think it's the same planet. Now I'm gonna have to go down that rabbit hole later today, go investigate that some more. It's been a minute since I've looked into it because I think at one point that was the theory of between Earth and Mars, that big space, that the debris field, like that planet like came through and like knocked it out or somehow. But it's been a minute since I read up on that one.
Yeah.
But if you guys have any questions, we're going to be wrapping up here soon because Emily has to go get ready for some store stuff. Richie's just getting done with work, so he's tired, and it's hard for me to carry a conversation by myself. So, guys,
I do a pretty good job.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that I would look into that too. But knowing me, by the time I wake up, I'll probably forget.
Fair.
No, I love that type of stuff, and I love going down those rabbit holes. And not only is it just interesting, but it's a nice break sometimes from work just to go like go something different besides like Black Friday promotions that we need to finish lining out.
Yeah, that's how I am with cryptids and paranormal. Like once I get started doing something with it, it's so hard to stop. But then right now, I should be doing research for my next book. I haven't only time I've touched my computer since I published my last book is to do these videos. I haven't done one bit of research because I'm just like, even for my YouTube, I haven't done any research. Like, this week's video was Bigfoot. Okay, I know Bigfoot. I don't need to research for that. So that was easy.
Right.
But it's like, I'm so tired of doing research right now. I need a long, long break. But I also know that I have to get back on it because I'm not getting anything done by just taking a break. I can take a break when I'm actually finished.
Yeah, sometimes you got to let your brain rest and promote the book that you got.
That's true.
So, well, thank you for joining us, everybody. We'll be back next Wednesday. Not sure what our topic will be yet, but we'll figure it out between now and then. But if you have any questions or suggestions, please send them in emails, whispers, private messaging, however, whatever platform you're on, that you can get it over. And maybe that's what we'll talk about next week. For our friends on Twitch, we're going to raid over to CKO, who is a fan of the channel and an excellent artist. She does a lot of bat artwork, so I am biased because I love bats. So we will raid on over into CKO. And everybody else, thank you so much. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.